The queen's roar. The night was calm in the alien palace, but that silence did not last for long. From the tallest tower, a terrible roar shook the walls, the kind of roar that made the ground tremble. Servants dropped their tools, and soldiers freeze in fear. It was the voice of the alien queen, fierce and powerful. Her sound carried across the dark sky, warning everyone that something unthinkable had happened. The queen's daughters, her two small princesses, had vanished. One moment they were asleep inside their crystal chamber, guarded by the strongest warriors. The next moment the room was empty. The glowing blankets on the royal bed were cold, and the guards lay unconscious on the floor. The queen stormed into the chamber. Her sharp eyes scanned the walls, her long silver crown rattling as she moved. Her daughters were not there, only the scent of fear and the trail of someone escaping through the open balcony. "Find them," the queen shouted. Her voice cracked the windows. Soldiers rushed in, their armor clashing as they bowed to her command. "Search every corner, every house, every shadow. If you fail me, you will not live to see the dawn." The entire palace shook with fear. Servants whispered, some saying the princesses had been stolen by humans, others saying dark creatures from the forest had taken them. The queen's anger was known across the stars, and no one dared stand in her way. Her roar echoed again, this time across the kingdom. Her voice was carried by strange towers that amplified sound. Every alien, from the farmers in the fields to the traders in the market, heard her fury that night. Everyone knew the queen's daughters were gone, and that blood would be spilled until they were found. The soldiers spread out in all directions. They rode beast-like creatures that could smell fear from miles away. Torches lit up the night as they searched the villages, slamming doors open, waking families and demanding answers. Mothers pulled their children close, fathers kept their heads low. Nobody dared to lie. For lying to the queen's soldiers meant death. But still, no one could say where the princesses had gone. Inside the queen's throne hall, the air was heavy. The queen stood tall, her golden skin glowing faintly under the firelight. Her claws, clenched so hard that sparks flickered between her fingers. Her voice was softer now, but filled with venom. "If a human has taken them, I will burn every human home. If a creature has touched them, I will tear their world apart. My daughters are mine, and mine alone." The guards trembled, for they had never seen her like this. She was feared by many, but she was also a mother, and the pain of losing her children was breaking through her fierce pride. Her roar was not just rage, it was sorrow, the kind that could shake the hearts of even her enemies. Far away from the palace, the wind carried that roar into the quiet night of a small human settlement. A man woke up from his bed, his heart pounding. He was a farmer, simple and ordinary, but the sound he heard filled him with dread. He sat up, rubbing his tired eyes, and looked down at his chest. Two small figures were curled against him, fast asleep. Their tiny breaths warmed his skin. Their skin glowed faintly with the same golden light as the queen's. He froze, realizing who they were. The alien queen's missing daughters. His mouth went dry, his hands shook. He wanted to push them away, to run, to hide. But as he stared at their peaceful faces, something inside him changed. They looked innocent, fragile, nothing like the monsters people described. One of them moved in her sleep, gripping his shirt tightly as if she feared being taken away. The other whispered softly, words broken and tired, "Don't take us back." "Please." The farmer's heart twisted. He did not know how they got there. He did not know why they chose him. But he knew one thing. The queen's roar meant soldiers would soon arrive, and if they found the princesses in his home, he would not live to see another sunrise. Still, when he tried to move them, his arms refused. Something deep in his chest told him he could not betray them. He could not hand them over. The roar thundered again in the distance, louder, closer. The farmer swallowed hard. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" And in that moment, the story truly began. The queen searching with fire and blood, and the human holding her daughters in his arms. The night of the queen's roar would change both their worlds forever. The human's shelter, the farmer's small cabin, stood on the edge of the forest far from the queen's shining palace. The walls were made of rough wood, the roof patched with straw. It was not much, but it was his home. And now, inside this quiet place, Two small alien princesses slept against his chest. His heart raced as he looked down at them. Their golden skin glowed faintly in the dark, like stars trapped in human form. Their hair shimmered with silver threads, their breaths rose and fell gently. So innocent, so unaware of the storm raging outside, he whispered to himself, "Why here? Why me?" He had no answer. No human dared to step near the palace, and no alien royal had ever walked into a human home. Yet somehow, these little ones had found him, and clung to him as if he were their protector. The queen's roar still echoed in the distance, carried on the wind. It was a sound that made his bones shake. He knew her rage would not end until she had her daughters back. He knew if the soldiers found them here, he would be accused of kidnapping, tortured, and killed. But when he tried to move the girls, their tiny hands gripped tighter, one clutching his shirt, the other curling her small fingers around his wrist. For a long moment, he sat frozen. The weight of choice pressed on him. Betray them to save himself, or protect them and risk death. The whisper of the youngest still echoed in his ears. "Don't take us back." Her voice was weak, filled with fear, and that single plea burned into his heart. He finally stood carrying them in his arms. They stirred but did not wake. He laid them gently on a pile of blankets near the fire. The warmth of the flames touched their glowing skin, making the room look like it was lit by golden lanterns. He pulled a heavy quilt over them, watching them curl together like kittens seeking warmth. His mind raced. The soldiers would come soon. He could already see torches moving in the distance through the cracks in his wooden walls. His cabin was small, too easy to search. He had to think fast. He lifted a loose plank in the floor, revealing a shallow space he once used to hide food during raids. It was not much, but it was something. When he turned back, one of the girls had opened her eyes. Her gaze was strange, bright, intelligent, far older than her years. She did not scream, did not cry. Instead, she studied him with quiet caution. Then, in a trembling voice, she asked, "You are human?" He nodded slowly, afraid to move too fast. "Yes. And you are the queen's daughters?" She did not answer, only looked at her sister, then at him again. Her eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away quickly, like someone trained never to show weakness. She whispered, "If you give us back, she will hurt us." The farmer's chest tightened, his mind screamed at him. How could a mother hurt her children? But the fear in the girl's voice felt too real, too heavy for a lie. He swallowed hard. He was only a farmer, no warrior, no leader. He had nothing but his hands and his courage. Yet at that moment, he made a decision that would change everything. Knelt beside them and spoke softly. "Then I will not take you back. Not now. Not until you are safe." The younger one stirred and mumbled again in her sleep, curling closer to her sister. The older girl blinked at him, surprised, as if she had not expected kindness. Slowly, she reached out her small glowing hand and touched his rough human fingers. Her touch was warm, almost like fire. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. Before he could reply, there came a loud thundering knock at the door. The cabin walls shook with the force. A deep voice shouted, "Open!" by order of the queen. The farmer's blood froze. His heart hammered in his chest. The soldiers had arrived sooner than he thought. He quickly grabbed the blankets, scooped the girls up, and placed them into the shallow space beneath the floor. "Stay quiet," he whispered. His voice was urgent but gentle. "Do not make a sound, no matter what you hear." The older girl nodded and wrapped her arms around her sister, pulling the blanket over them. Their glow dimmed under the cover, almost invisible. He replaced the floorboard just as another knock thundered through the cabin. With sweat dripping down his face, he opened the door. A group of alien soldiers stood there, their armor gleaming under torchlight. Their leader's eyes narrowed as he looked at the human. "You, farmer, have you seen anyone pass through?" "Two children, golden skin, silver hair." His voice was sharp, threatening. The farmer forced a calm face, shaking his head. "No, sir. Only me here." He stepped aside. "You may search if you wish." The soldiers pushed past him, their boots stomping against the wooden floor. Every step felt like thunder in his ears. His heart pounded, terrified that they would hear the faint breaths below. The leader sniffed the air like a predator. His gaze scanned the cabin, the blankets, the fire. His claws scraped the table as he moved past. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the soldiers left, the leader pausing at the door to glare at the farmer. "If you lie to the queen human, she will burn your bones where you stand." With that, they marched away, their torches disappearing into the night. The farmer closed the door slowly, his body shaking. He dropped to his knees and lifted the floorboard. The girls stared up at him, wide-eyed but safe. Relief washed over him, and he whispered, "It's all right. They're gone." But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The queen would not stop, and the danger was only growing. And yet, as he looked at the two fragile lives, he had just risked everything, for he felt something strange stirring in his chest, something stronger than fear. He felt the start of a bond, one that even the queen's roar could not break, soldiers close. And the night grew heavier after the soldiers left the farmer's cabin. The torches outside faded into the forest, but their footsteps still echoed in his mind. He shut the door slowly and leaned against it, his chest rising and falling like a man who had just escaped death. Beneath the floor, the two alien girls remained hidden, their glowing skin dimmed under the heavy quilt. The farmer lifted the plank carefully and looked at them. Their small eyes stared back at him, fearful, tired, but also trusting. That look made his hands tremble. He whispered, "It's all right, they're gone. For now." The older sister climbed out first, helping the younger one. They clung to each other, their silver hair catching the firelight. The farmer gave them bread and water. It was all he had, but the children ate as if it were a feast. Crumbs sticking to their glowing lips, the farmer sat near the fire, his mind heavy. He knew the soldiers would not stop. They would return again and again until they found the princesses. And if they ever learned he was hiding them, his death would be slow and painful. Outside, the sound of horns echoed through the valley. The soldiers were spreading out, calling to each other as they moved door to door. The queen's command had given them no rest. Search every house, search every barn, search even the shadows of the trees. The farmer's cabin stood alone at the forest's edge, a small dot of light in the darkness that made it suspicious, too quiet, too distant. He knew they would come again, and next time they might not leave without tearing the place apart. The older girl seemed to sense his thoughts. She spoke softly, her alien accent heavy but her words clear. "They will not stop until we are taken back." He looked at her. "Why? Why do you fear your own mother?" The girl lowered her gaze. Holding her sister closer, she did not answer at first. Then, in a whisper, she said, "She loves us, yes, but her love burns. It hurts. She controls us, owns us. We were not daughters to her. We were treasures locked away." The farmer's chest tightened. He was only a simple man, but even he could see the truth in her trembling hands. Whatever had driven the children away, it was more than just fear of capture. It was the hunger for freedom. The younger girl yawned, curling against her sister. The farmer pulled another blanket around them. His hands were rough, but his touch was gentle. The girls leaned into him, as if they had known him forever, but outside the world was far from gentle. By midnight, soldiers returned to the village near the forest. Torches burned bright. Shadows stretched across walls. Families were dragged. Outside, questioned, threatened. "Have you seen the princesses?" the guards demanded. "Have you heard a human keeping secrets?" Some villagers shook their heads. Others whispered rumors. One man pointed toward the forest, saying, Human lives there alone." He did not answer when we called him earlier. That single word alone was enough to spark suspicion. The soldier commander narrowed his eyes. "We will search him again." Back in the cabin, the farmer could already hear faint noises drifting through the trees. The crunch of armored boots on fallen leaves, the crack of branches, the sound of horns. He froze, every nerve in his body alert. He whispered to the girls, "They're coming back." The older one grabbed his sleeve, her golden eyes wide. "You will die if they find us here." He nodded. "Yes, maybe, but I will not let them take you." He led them to the hidden floor again, but his heart told him it would not be enough. This time the soldiers would rip the place apart. They would not be fooled twice. He needed something more, something clever. He thought quickly. His eyes fell on the old cellar outside, half collapsed, covered with weeds. Nobody had stepped inside. For years, he remembered once hiding grain there when raiders came. Perhaps it could work again. "Come," he whispered urgently, wrapping them in thick cloaks to cover their glow. He carried the younger in his arms and guided the older by hand. Together they slipped out the back door into the cold night. The air was sharp, the moon hidden behind clouds. He led them through tall grass, his boots sinking in soft soil. The forest seemed alive with whispers, every sound louder than it should have been. The younger stirred in his arms, but he hushed her gently. At the edge of the yard, he pulled away weeds and opened the rotten wooden door to the cellar. A foul smell of earth and damp air drifted out. But it was deep, dark, hidden. "Stay here," he whispered, placing them inside. "No sound, no matter what." The older girl looked at him, her voice shaking. "They will hurt you." He smiled faintly, though his hands shook. "I've been hurt before, little one. I can handle it." She reached out her hand again, touching his rough fingers. "Don't leave us forever." His chest tightened. He nodded, lowering the door. The darkness swallowed them, leaving only silence. Moments later, torches lit up his cabin once more. Soldiers crashed inside, overturning chairs, ripping open cupboards, tearing. At the floorboards, the commander snarled, "You lied to us, human. Where are they?" The farmer stood tall, his face calm, though his heart raced. "I told you before, I am alone." The commander's claws grazed his throat, sharp enough to draw a drop of blood. "If I find even a trace of them here, your head will hang from the palace gate." The farmer held his ground, his eyes steady. He had chosen his path. Outside, more soldiers spread into the trees, searching the night with hounds and glowing spears. The circle was tightening. The farmer knew he had only bought a little time. The danger was not gone. It was closer than ever. And now, the fight was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting the fragile trust of two children who believed in him, the secret revealed. The cellar was damp and cold. The farmer had spread blankets on the ground, but the air was heavy with dust and mold. For the first few nights, the alien girls stayed hidden there whenever the soldiers came. The farmer brought them food and water and whispered to them through the cracks of the wooden door. At first it worked. The soldiers searched the cabin over and over, tearing through walls and cupboards, but never looked twice at the broken cellar outside. The farmer began to hope he could keep them safe, but hope never lasts long. One evening, as the sun set behind the forest, the younger princess began to cough. At first it was soft, a weak sound that could be ignored, but soon it grew louder, her small body shaking. Her golden glow dimmed as if her very light was fading. The older sister clutched her tightly, her eyes full of fear. The farmer rushed to them, lifting the girl into his arms. Her skin was burning, with fever. Her tiny hands trembled against his chest. He looked at the older one. What's happening to her? Tears welled in the girl's eyes. She is too weak. She cannot live long without care. In the palace she had healers, medicines. Here she has nothing. The farmer's chest tightened. He knew she was right. Humans had healers in the village, women who worked with herbs and remedies, but taking the child there meant risking everything. If the wrong person saw her golden skin, it would be the end of them all. For hours he sat by her side, trying to cool her forehead with damp cloth. Whispering comfort, he did not believe himself. But the cough grew worse, and by nightfall her breathing was shallow. The older girl knelt before him, her silver hair falling around her face. Her voice was small but fierce. Please, save her. You are all we have now. The farmer's hands shook. He had never been a hero, never even been brave. He was just a man with a small cabin, a patch of land, and 2 empty hands. But as he looked at the sick child in his arms, he knew he could not stay still. He would risk it. He had no choice. At midnight, he wrapped the younger one in a heavy blanket covering her glow. He carried her close against his chest, while the older sister walked beside him. Together, they slipped through the forest toward the village. The night was silent except for the rustle of leaves. Every step made his heart pound. The Queen's soldiers still roamed nearby, their torches glowing like angry stars in the dark. Twice he had to hide behind trees as patrols passed, clutching the sick girl tightly while the older sister pressed against his arm. Finally, they reached the back door of the healer's hut. The farmer knocked softly. His breath came fast and uneven. A moment later, the door creaked open. An old woman stood there, her wrinkled face lit by a small lamp. She frowned. "Who comes here so late?" The farmer pushed forward, whispering urgently, "Please, she's sick, I need your help." The healer's eyes narrowed. "Who is she?" He hesitated, but the child whimpered weakly in his arms, her skin glowing faintly beneath the blanket. The healer gasped, covering her mouth. "By the stars, the Queen's child." The farmer grabbed her wrist, begging, "Please, don't call the guards, don't tell anyone. If you let her die, her blood is on your hands. Help her, I beg you." The healer's eyes flickered with fear. She looked at the door, then back at the glowing child. After a long moment, she sighed. "Bring her in quickly." Inside, the hut smelled of herbs and smoke. The healer laid the girl on a bed of straw. She began mixing roots and powders, boiling water. Over the fire, the farmer stood nearby, his fists clenched. The older sister never left her sibling's side, holding her hand tightly. Hours passed as the healer worked, finally giving the girl a bitter drink. Slowly, her cough quieted, her glow brightened again, and her breathing eased. She slept peacefully. At last, the farmer let out a breath he had been holding for too long. He almost collapsed from relief, but the healer turned to him with hard eyes. "You fool, do you know what you've done? If the Queen learns of this, she will burn not only you but me, my hut, this whole village." The farmer bowed his head. "Then let her burn me, but don't let the children suffer." The old woman studied him for a long time, then shook her head. "Humans do not risk their lives for aliens. Yet you have. Perhaps you are mad, or perhaps you are something else." She handed him a pouch of herbs. "This will keep her strong, but you must hide her well. Do not come back unless you have no choice." He nodded, gathering the child back. Into his arms, she stirred slightly, whispering something in her alien tongue. He didn't understand the words, but the sound was soft, trusting. As he left the hut, the older sister touched the healer's hand, whispering, "Thank you." The old woman looked away quickly, as if afraid her heart would betray her duty. Back in the forest, the farmer walked faster. The night felt colder, more dangerous. He knew now that others were aware. The healer had helped, yes, but she also knew their secret, and secrets never stayed hidden for long. When they reached the cabin, he laid the younger girl back onto the blankets in the cellar. She slept deeply, her glow steady once more. The older sister looked at him with eyes full of gratitude and something else, something like respect. "You saved her," she whispered. "Even when it could kill you." The farmer shrugged, though his throat was tight. "I couldn't let her die. No child deserves that." She stepped closer, her small hand brushing his arm. "You are not like the others. You are different." He looked away, uneasy. He had no answer. He only knew one truth. The secret was slipping, and sooner or later, the Queen's hunt would lead straight to him. And when that day came, no cellar, no herbs, no lies would be enough to protect them. The Queen's hunt. The palace walls shook as the Queen's rage grew. For days her soldiers had searched the villages, the forests, even the rivers, but still her daughters were not found. Every report of failure only fed the fire inside her. Her throne room became a storm of fury. She stood tall, her golden skin glowing brighter than flames, her eyes burning like molten metal. Her voice cracked through the hall. "My daughters do not vanish into dust. Someone hides them, and I will tear this world apart until I find them." The commanders knelt before her, trembling. One dared to speak. "My queen, we have searched every human settlement, but there is no sign." Her claws slashed across the floor, leaving deep marks. "Then search again. Burn their homes if you must. Drag every human from their beds, they will break before I do." The queen's roar carried far, through the villages and into the forests. The farmer heard it while gathering water near his cabin. His hands shook, the wooden bucket slipping from his grip. He stared toward the distant glow of the palace towers, his heart heavy. Inside the cellar, the children huddled together. The younger one had regained strength, her glow brighter now, but fear still lingered in her small eyes. The older sister listened to every sound outside, her body tense like a wild creature ready to flee. When the farmer returned, she asked quietly, "How long until she comes here?" He could not lie. His voice was low. "Not long." That night, the village near the forest burned. Soldiers stormed through the streets, dragging humans out, demanding answers. Torches lit the night as screams echoed across the valley. The queen herself rode at the front of the army, a beast of black scales carrying her. Her crown glowed like fire, her roar louder than thunder. The farmer watched from the shadows of the trees, holding the girls close. The sight of the burning homes twisted his chest. These were his people, humans who had nothing to do with this. But the queen's fury did not see innocence, only disobedience. One villager, desperate to save his own life, shouted, "The farmer in the forest, he hides." Alone, he does not answer when called. Perhaps he knows something. The queen's eyes turned toward the forest, her lips curled back in a snarl. "Then I will see this farmer myself." The farmer hurried back to the cabin. His heart pounded. He knew the queen was coming, not just her soldiers, but the queen herself. Her power was unlike anything he could face. He had protected the girls from patrols, from suspicion, from sickness. But how could he stand against their mother? The older sister sensed his fear. She grabbed his hand, her small fingers warm against his rough skin. "You saved us before. You can save us again." Her words cut deep. They trusted him completely, and that trust was heavier than any chain. He looked at them, their glowing faces so fragile, so innocent. He swallowed hard. "I will try. But this time we must be clever." He led them to the cellar once more, but he knew it would not be enough. The queen would not be fooled by wooden boards. Her eyes could pierce stone. Her rage could crush walls. Still, he hid them there, whispering, "Do not make a sound, not even a breath." Then he sat by the fire, waiting. The night was silent for only a moment. Then came the sound of horns, drums, and heavy footsteps. The earth shook. The trees bent in fear. Torches lit the forest in a burning line. The cabin door rattled under a mighty fist. The walls trembled. The farmer stood, his breath shallow, his hand gripped the edge of the table. He knew who it was. The door burst open, splinters flying. The alien queen stepped inside. Her towering figure filled the small cabin. Her golden glow lit every shadow. Her crown scraped the low roof. Her eyes locked on him with fury. "You," she growled, her voice thick with venom. "A human farmer. Do you know where my daughters are?" The farmer's body stiffened. His throat was dry. His heart told him to fall to his knees to beg. But his chest burned with something stronger. He met her gaze and said slowly, "No." Her claws extended, sharp as blades. She stepped closer, her presence crushing the air around him. She sniffed the room, her eyes narrowing. Her gaze fell on the floorboards for a long moment. Beneath the cabin, the girls held their breath. The younger one's eyes filled with tears. The older pressed a hand over her sister's mouth, praying the queen could not hear the trembling of their hearts. The queen turned back to the farmer. Her voice was cold as ice. "If I find you lie, your body will be broken until you beg for death." The farmer stood firm, though sweat dripped down his face. "I told you, I am alone." The queen studied him. Her eyes glowed brighter. She could sense something. She could almost smell the faint trace of her daughters in the air. But something about the farmer's stillness unsettled her. He did not cower like the others. He stood as if the weight of her fury could not bend him. For the first time in years, the queen hesitated. Her claws retracted slightly, her voice softened, not with kindness, but with curiosity. "Why do you not fear me like the others?" The farmer's voice was low, steady. "Because fear won't keep me alive and it won't bring back what you've lost." The queen's eyes narrowed. For a moment, the fire inside her faltered. She turned sharply and stormed out, shouting to her soldiers, "Search the forest. Tear it apart if you must." The farmer collapsed into a chair, his body trembling. He had survived, but only barely. The girls crawled out from the cellar, running to him. The younger one clung to his arm, whispering, "She was here." The older sister looked at him with wide eyes. "You stood before her and she did not break you." He said nothing, staring at the door she had left open. The forest still burned with torches outside. He knew this was not the end. The queen's hunt was far from over, and soon he would have to face her again. This time with no lies left to protect him. The heartbreak choice. The forest no longer slept. The queen's army filled it with torches, drums, and horns. Every tree cast long, angry shadows. Every villager was dragged from their home and questioned again. The queen's fury was spreading, whiter, and her patience was almost gone. Inside the farmer's cabin, silence hung heavy. The two alien girls sat close to him, their small bodies trembling. The younger whispered, "She will find us. She always finds us." The farmer placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was steady, though his heart shook. "Not while I live." But deep down, he knew the truth. He could not hide them forever. The queen was closing in, step by step, and sooner or later the secret would shatter. The next day the soldiers returned, not in small patrols but in great numbers. Their commander raised a hand and dozens of warriors surrounded the cabin. Spears glowed with strange energy, hounds growled, their noses pressed to the ground. The farmer stood at the doorway, blocking their path. The commander's voice was sharp. "The queen herself will enter again. She will see with her own eyes what you hide." The farmer's throat went dry. He glanced back at the children, who clung to each other in fear. Then he turned and nodded slowly. "Let her come." Moments later, the queen appeared, her towering figure casting a shadow that swallowed the small cabin whole. Her crown gleamed like fire. Her golden skin glowed brighter than the soldiers' torches. When she stepped inside, the air seemed to vanish. Her voice cut through the silence. "No more lies, human. This time I will see the truth." She raised her hand, and the floorboards trembled.